What's up, everybody? It's your favorite list maker's favorite nerd. Today we are going to take a look at some of the top and bottom lists that I was able to come up with on short notice for the year 2014. A couple people wrote in and asked me to do one of these, and it actually ended up being a fair bit of fun. So without further ado, we're going to do the most surprisingly good, the most disappointing, the worst, and the best. Let's start with surprisingly good. Coming in at number 5. Unique Toys Psycho, or Salmore. And this guy, with Unique Toys' sketchy history, even though they were making improvements, I was really impressed with this guy. He's not perfect. The shoulders could tab in, that would help a lot. And the kibble in the back could clean up a good bit. But with the exception of those two things, the overall figure is really quite impressive and a lot of fun. So he's number 5 on the most surprisingly good list. Number 4 is Streetwise and Groove from TFC, which is Warning Line and Gumball. And I put these as the surprisingly good because while TFC has made a name for themselves making simple but effective Transformers, these two I feel like really stepped up in the level of engineering and the level of materials. I really felt like they stepped up their game with these two, and I'm anxious to see what they do with the other limbs. But this would be number 4 for me on the most surprisingly good. Number 3 on the most surprisingly good is old Brawny from Batcube, and the reason why he's on the list is because after the CubeX Huffer, I didn't really expect much out of this company. While this guy still has his issues, I feel like the improvements are pretty significant and pretty impressive, and he really feels masterpiecey, and he's a lot of fun to mess with. So this would be number 3 on my surprisingly good list. Number 2 on my surprisingly good list, I got to go with the KFC Sharks. I've never expected much out of this company, and wham! They come out with these two things out of the blue that just feel leaps and bounds above anything else that I've ever gotten from anything they've ever released. If you haven't picked these guys up, the characters aren't huge popular characters, but they are really well-made toys. So number 2 on my surprisingly good list. And numero uno, number 1 on my surprisingly good list is Hasbro's Voyager Generations Brainstorm. He is pretty awesome for a Hasbro product. One of my favorite toys of the year. Not top 10 or anything, but definitely leaps and bounds above anything I would have expected out of this camp, especially with the pictures that I saw leading up to it. So there you are. Top 5 most disappointing figures of the year. This doesn't mean they were bad. It just means they didn't live up to expectations. Coming in at number 5 is the Fansproject Dinobots thus far. And I really think that this set suffers because they were trying to rush in order to get these Diaclone ones out for these cons and didn't take the time and care and attention that we usually expect from this company. And as a result, we get transformations that are a little wonky. We get loose joints. Look at that. Just not what I expect from this company. So this is coming in at number 5. Number 4, we have MMC's Azalea. Not a bad figure, but a pretty lousy Transformer. And with MMC just coming off of Feral Rex, which is a phenomenal piece, this was a pretty disappointing follow-up. So she's coming in at number 4. Disappointment numero tres, TFC's Hydrant, coming off of the strength of Streetwise and Groove, which I think are huge improvements from what we expect from this company. They hit us with this puppy. Now, like I said before, I'm hoping that this pays off in the in-game, but as of right now, it's a pretty lousy figure. So he comes in at number 3. Masterpiece Rat-Bat coming in at number 2. And not only was the way they handled the packaging of this piece kind of disappointing with it was $180 unless you got the knockoff, but the overall tape transformation and articulation is a little bit of a letdown after the strength of the previous Takara tapes released in the Masterpiece line. And the most disappointing toy to me this year is PlayArts Kai's DC variant Flash. Once again, it's not that he's a terrible figure. It's just that this company, I've never bought a bad toy from this company until I got this one. And it's not that he's bad in the great sense of things. He's just bad in comparison to the other PlayArts releases. The soft plastic pelvis piece not really fitting properly. The accessories not really working out all that well. A lot of little imperfections in the paint. Just little things I'm just not used to with this company. So he would be my number 1 on the list. Most disappointing toys of 2014. So our next list is top 5 worst toys of the year. And this is Tailgate, Legends Tailgate. And he's coming in at number 5. And it's not because he's a bad toy, it's because he's a bad representation of a great character. If you read More Than Meets the Eye, he's a hard character to hate. He's an easy character to love. And this toy just did that character no credit. And that's why this toy is on the list. It's not that he is bad, it's that the representation is bad. So this is number 5. Oh, and I have to add, he's in rough shape, and I can't tell you why, but it will all make sense soon. Okay, coming in at number 4 is our KFC tapes. Basically because they aren't much better than the G1 versions. They aren't much better than much of anything. They're generally fragile and ineffective. Relatively overpriced for what you end up getting. So this is number 4 of the worst toys of the year. Alright, number 3 on the list is this abortion. And this thing is like the Ebola of toys. It's not bad enough you get one. It has to spread to 2 figures, and it's overall just a mess. Doesn't work well, doesn't combine well, doesn't look good really in any mode. Just a sloppy, ridiculous pile of plastic. And he's coming in at number 3. Number 2 of the worst toys of the year, Old Ollie. And I gave this toy a hard time, and he deserved every bit of it. He's light, he's weak, he's ineffective, his joints suck. The only saving grace of this figure is the overall sculpt, but nothing helps that sculpt be successful. So he's number 2. And in my opinion, the worst toy of the year is Kronos. And luckily I was able to return mine, so we'll be using this Apple core as a stand-in for Kronos. And the reason why is because I had such high hopes for him. I stood in his corner when other people doubted, and he came only to deliver nerd rage and disappointment. I've never had a figure dripping with WD-40 until this year. And that alone makes him worthy to be number 1 on the worst toy of the year list. The only unfortunate thing about this aspect of the video is that that's a Honeycrisp apple, which is really a phenomenal apple. If you've never had a Honeycrisp apple, there's a part of me that wants to recommend it to you, and then there's another part of me that wants to tell you never have it, because it will change your life. You'll never look at apples the same way. Unfortunately, it was the only kind of apple that I had on hand to eat, so we have to use a really great apple core to represent a really terrible figure. Number 1, numero uno, Kronos. So here's my top 10 list, and I'm choosing 10 because I often get a lot of flack for being a little too negative. So I figured with the best figures, why not do 10 as opposed to 5? Show you guys how positive I really am. And number 10 is Black Widow from Marvel Legends Captain America line. I choose this for a couple reasons. Number 1, it's a great figure, but number 2 is I know people think I give Hasbro a hard time about their Transformer line, and I do. And people often use the argument, well, what do you expect with a $15 toy? And this is the thing. This is a $20 toy, and I'll tell you what I expect. I expect a good sculpt, good mold, good paint, good articulation. That's it. And this figure has all of those things. The gun holsters irritate me. The fact you can't take the guns out of the holsters irritates me. But aside from that, it's a great likeness. The paint is good. The articulation is great. It's a good figure. This is a $20 figure. Not a $100 figure or a $50 figure. This is a $20 Hasbro figure, and it's in my top 10. Coming in at number 9, Fansproject Revolver. I love this toy. My only complaint, and which is the reason why it's so low down the list of my top 10, is that I wish the chest was a little bit beefier. But other than that, really great figure. Good articulation, good mold, interesting transformation, a lot of fun, and looks great on a shelf. Coming in at number 8, Warbitron Swindle. And I'm not sure what his name is anymore, the Warbitron name. But this is an example where the personality of the figure really comes across. It's a lot of fun. It's very cool. It reminds you so much of the character that you know, even in aspects you never knew were even capable of being expressed in a three-dimensional release. Very cool, very solid. Looking forward to the rest of the set. Coming in at number 7, Play Arts Kai DC Variants Batgirl. Everything that's wrong with the Flash is right with this figure. Very cool, looks great on the shelf, everything's solid, everything's tight, everything works the way that it should. Interesting sculpt, spot on paint, incredible articulation as you come to expect, and a great addition to anybody's collection. Numero 6. The old Make Toys trash talk, which is Swerve with the Make Toys first blaster add-on. If you watch my videos, you know I love this guy. I end up throwing him in for a size reference for tons of different toys. He's small, there's not a lot to him, and he's fantastic, and he's inexpensive. There's a lot of things about this toy that I feel like a lot of other companies could learn a lot from. Had this toy had that extra step in detail of paint application, I think this toy might have been my #1 of the year. Love it. My #5 choice is Storm from X-Men Marvel Legends series, and it's not that she's fantastic, it's just that it's a good sculpt, good mold, decent paint, for an affordable price. You get what you want out of it. It's just well executed. Her biggest problem is getting her to stand. If they'd have given her a stand, she'd have moved further up the list probably, but that's my big complaint with, 3-inch figures and above that don't have huge robotic platform feet, but a very well executed, very well molded sculpt of a character that you want in your collection. #4, another Hasbro $20 product. This is Hasbro's Star Wars Black Series 6-inch Boba Fett. The sculpt is awesome. The articulation is almost perfect with the exception of the ankles. The mold is great. The paint application is top notch. It's got the little extra accent of attention to detail with the little cloth cape. $20. A lot could be learned from this with their Transformer department, I can tell you that much. #3, Takara Tomi's Wheeljack. This is all of the love, care, and attention that you come to expect and intricacy with the Masterpiece line. It's spot on. I know there's been some QC issues. I didn't have any, so I can only judge off of what I received, and it's beautiful. I pick him up probably once a week. He's a really, really, really well-made toy. Numero dos, Fans Toy Scoria. I can't tell you how many times people walk into my basement and this toy stops them dead in their tracks like, what is this? And rightfully so. It's beautiful. It's a great representation of the G1 character as you know it, and it's made in a way that you want to put them on your shelf and display them right alongside your masterpieces without a second thought about how it will fit in. There's no doubt that this is a masterpiece toy in the third-party market. And numero uno, my favorite and most appreciated purchase of the year is the combined effort of MMC's Feral Cons, or as you may know him, Predaking. It is the culmination of so many great sculpts and great molds and great attention to detail. Tons of ratchets, tons of things that I love. With a little bit more paint, I would say it was perfect. But this is the third-party combiner I've always dreamed of having. He's fantastic, he's menacing, he's imposing. Individually and combined, this is a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic toy and the greatest addition to my collection in 2014.